Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I am your host, Professor Prime. Yeah. So, math and art. How do they connect? I did a whole series on that, which was very experimental, but very interesting. So, if you want to check that out, you should. If I can remember, I'll shoot a link in the description or the end card, depending on how I want to do that, if it's functioning. Um, but here I want to do a summary of that. So I want to talk about that a little bit for my new series, Math in the World, where I talk about how math connects to different subjects. And so with math and art, it's all over the place, believe it or not. And so in addition to that series that I mentioned, and if I haven't added this, I'll add the video that I'm about to talk about to that video. Is that I did a whole video on creativity and logic, and it is one of my best works, and I'm super proud of that. And yeah, so you should definitely check that out too. Um, and we'll get into that a little later. So, math and art, how do they connect? The short answer is in more ways than you think. So, let's begin. Well, art, it could be a lot of things. It is a lot of things to a lot of people. It's a way of expressing yourself, and this can happen in various forms. And in this whole series that I'm doing right now, I did go into it with music, and then I went even further and talked about rap as well. So, math and music and math and rap. Um, and I'd argue that really most of the things that I've been doing, there's an art to it because I did some things on food. I did some things on gaming and things along those lines. And there's art in all of that. And so I think it's kind of cool because like art is everywhere and math is everywhere. But if I want to like be more general, so art's a way to express yourself, and you can see a lot of art in math, believe it or not. There's so many different ways that you can express yourself. There's so many different ways to solve a problem. And even on the most minor level, even with something like addition, there's so many different ways you can express that if you want to get into it. And I think that's pretty cool. And like how you solve a problem, um, it doesn't just have to be this algorithmic process. It can be a way for you to show the world how you solve a problem, how you want to do this. And that can be tough when you're learning it for the first time because there's like a regimented way of approaching it, but when you get into it, yeah, you can really express yourself with math. So there's a lot of art in math, a lot of art in problem solving, and I think that's amazing. And now we can talk about like the art part where math comes into play in there. So and we're going to talk about a couple different things like briefly. So I can start with like let's say painting a picture, for instance. I have to have a good sense of geometry, the different shapes I could use and how they can all connect. And I have to like be cautious of the medium that I'm using. I have to be cautious about like the space that I have. I have to like have all of that thought up, right? And whether I'm doing it consciously or unconsciously, I'm using math and all of that. And so when you're making different patterns, the math is in there too. Like you're following some like sort of pattern, you're forming some sort of relationship with that piece of art. You're mapping it out. And the more intricate you get, the more that math shows, I feel. And one of the cool things is if you look into fractal art, there's a lot of math in that. It's really cool. And if I remember, I'll leave something in the description as well. But that's one big way. Like, so if I'm looking at painting or if I'm making a sketch, there's a lot of math in that. Like from the shapes that I have to like the amount of space that I'm using, and if I'm like using all of this in some larger work, how am I organizing it? I.e., like if I have a portfolio, like how big do I want that? And yeah, so there's a lot to it, right? Like from the shapes to the lines that I'm making, there's math in that. Um, and I talk about this in a way more thorough way, but like with creativity and logic, they go hand in hand, and both are used in math and in art. And so I think that's impressive. And then like when we consider art and like what it is, right? It continues to grow. It's in books. It's in you know gaming and film, TV, all that good stuff. All of it is art, and math is in all of that. And then, like I said, I had some other videos for gaming and music and stuff like that. But yeah, I talk about how math is used in each of those things, but also how it's used in like the meta narrative. So how's it used in like the big picture sort of way? Um, But yeah, so I wanted to kind of keep this one general, but kind of talk about something that I didn't in some of the other videos. And as we go on with the series, I have a sneaking suspicion that math will keep on popping up with things that are connected to art, because they are two of the most important and prevalent things that we have in this world. And I guess one of the things before I do close this out is like nature. Nature's a beautiful thing. And I mentioned fractals earlier. They show up in nature all the time. Like anywhere from tree branches to the petals of a flower and how things spiral out. Like, and yeah, so it's pretty cool to think about. But math and art go hand in hand, and I know that we oftentimes think that they don't, but the truth is they do. And I feel like when you think of math as an art, it helps you become a more effective mathematician because you can think outside the box using the rules that you have. And then with art, I feel like if you start to think about how you're actually doing math when you're doing that, it can help you be more precise. It could help you do more intricate patterns. It could help you think about how you really want to map some things out. And you can have a good sense of what's going on, geometrically speaking. And like I said, if you didn't consciously do that, you're doing it unconsciously. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So math and art. There's a lot to say about that, and I get a sneaking suspicion it's going to continue to show up in my series because again, math and art are all over the place, and I think that's a beautiful thing. Yeah. So I'll see you in the next video. Professor Prime out.